I was like pretty depressed, and I came home from work one day and I just said to myself, like, you have to find something that you can do just for joy, just for the sake of joy. And I woke up from an amnesia that I had been in for most of my life. Although on the outside, it seemed like I had everything that I wanted. I had a creative job. I was my own boss. I got to make my own hours. I wanted to be doing something that was really an extension of my heart, and I wasn't. And so
welcome to another episode of Laugh Out Loud podcast. My guest today is Julia Rockowitz. She's a creative entrepreneur and a hand-poked tattoo artist and mentor. Her tattooing process is rooted in ceremony, ritual, and a deeply meaningful experience for her clients. She also teaches aspiring tattoo artists how to step into the craft in a safe and accessible way. Through her work, she challenges conventional ways of living and working, embracing a slower and more intentional lifestyle that prioritizes art, spirituality, and connection. I'm really excited to have this conversation with her and for you to learn and get inspired by her ideas, experiences, and much more. Julia,
hello.
thank you for being here.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
I would love for you to share your process of creating harmony in your life and uniting your creative process, your creativity, your art as an artist, and your life provision, the base of a survival, what we call make a living, and so on. That's a conversation that as artists we talk about a lot, and it is wonderful when somebody can way show that it is possible, right? And what it takes. So if you could share what was your process to getting to that point, and especially your inner process.
That's such a good and big question. I think I have to go back pretty far to my first job after college. I worked as an executive assistant in San Francisco for a venture capital firm, and I gathered a ton of resources there and learned how to run a business by observing. I've always been like someone who learns very quickly and can take a little bit of information and see a much bigger picture. And so I'm grateful that that was like a natural thing for me. And so working there, I got to see from, like I worked at the front desk and I got to see all these businesses that we were potentially funding and how they were getting built from the ground up. But I always knew from probably like while I was in school that I never felt like I fit any conventional mold of working in the world. And I was so desperate to graduate college and find a job because I just wanted to be like on my own and have enough money to then figure out what I was actually going to do. So I worked for a few years there, and then I got a job working for one of the companies that we funded, and it was a startup, and I was the third employee there, and really actually got to experience building a business from the ground up. And then that wasn't the best situation for me, and I was in a relationship at the time that was really challenging, and just kind of at a point in my life, I was in, my early 20s and had no idea who I was, what I really wanted, didn't really have like hobbies or interests or anything beyond what was like right in front of me. And I was like pretty depressed, and I came home from work one day and I just said to myself, like, you have to find something that you can do just for joy, just for the sake of joy. And so I started drawing, And I started doing these little illustrations that were like simple, silly drawings, and I wrote a little pun, like a play on words underneath them. And I started sharing them with friends, and I made an Instagram account, and I shared them, and it grew into this big thing that I eventually made into a business. And then I eventually moved to LA, and years had passed, and I left that relationship and found myself in LA again, really isolated and confused, and was just still trying to figure out, like, what am I doing here? Who am I? And at this point, I started to actually ask myself those questions and contemplate. And I started meditating, and I started reading all the books and um, listening to all the podcasts. And um, I always joke that at that time, it was like I got on like a rocket launcher, and I was moving very, very quickly, and it was almost like a light turned on, and I woke up from an amnesia that I had been in for most of my life, and it was just like, okay, I'm here now. And during that time, I realized that although on the outside it seemed like I had everything that I wanted, I had a creative job. I was my own boss. I got to make my own hours, all the things that come with what you think a creative business would come with. I was still like really disconnected from the art that I was creating. And I I said this to you before we hit record, but I just felt like I wanted to be doing something that was really an extension of my heart, and I wasn't. And so I decided the current business had to shift, but I refused to go back to work. So I just kind of like opened myself up and asked the universe, God, source, my guides, to show me the way. And one night I was at home and I was listening to music and having like a journaling creative session with myself, which I do often when I'm trying to get clarity on something. And this particular night, I ate a very small amount of mushrooms, and I had a very, very clear vision of me tattooing far into the future. And um, I listened, and I started tattooing, long story short. And my life really changed again in that moment. There's like a series of, I think the common thread for me is listening to myself whenever, or to whatever, but to the like quiet voice inside that is nudging me towards something, and, moving even when I'm afraid. And so I eventually moved down to San Diego, which was another listening to myself, and that really opened up my life a lot and gave me a lot of environmental spaciousness, which I was craving inside. And so, yeah, I think for me, cultivating this life where I get to weave my art and my work is a practice of listening and responding and moving in the face of fear, and continuing to try to do that over and over again.
Yes, beautiful, beautiful. And so about the art of tattooing as a ceremony, I think it's beautiful to bring a ceremonial intention to the process of tattooing. Um, and I wish I had learned that before I got my first
Me too.
tattoo. It wasn't. It was a naive experience that I thought it was gonna be really cool. So we go through phases.
Those, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. It sounds like you already had that connection with source and with your inner voice, with your guides, with source. So aligning with that, it sounds like a natural element to your tattooing process. But what was that development? I'm curious. What was that development into your first insight or first vision into? Okay, now I'm holding space in ceremony for tattoo.
Yeah, it's been such an evolution and it still continues to evolve. Um, first of all, the nature of hand poke tattooing versus using a machine is uh, it's the ancient way. It's the way that we tattooed in ritual and ceremony when tattoos began. That was the way that they were done. So that in and of itself brought me already into a completely different space than the more conventional way of tattooing. But when I first started to tattoo, I was not where I'm at now, obviously in my own human evolution. And so my process has evolved as I've evolved. And when I first started tattooing, it was more so being reflected in the art that I was creating. So I was creating art that had some sort of symbolism or intention, and I was really only tattooing this artwork. And then it evolved to like a couple minute grounding meditation before we started the tattoo. And when I first started, within like the first 6 months, again, like I said, I was on kind of this rocket launcher and information was coming really, really quickly and a lot at once. And I channeled a language of symbols that I was originally only tattooing these symbols. It's since evolved, but so I channeled this language of symbols and I started the process of ceremony by taking my client's intention and then using the symbols to tell the story of their intention. And then the way that I held the space and facilitated an experience has evolved over time. Again, like as a reflection of my own evolution and things that I've learned along the way and trainings that I've done and experiences in ceremony that I've had that I've been able to be like, oh, I'm going to add this or I'm going to, pull something like this. And yeah, it's just like this really beautiful uh, creation that I've gotten to mold over time and still am. Yeah.
How do you navigate those creative and ceremonial, intentional, channeling, inspired moments with the day to day things that are part of it, are part of making that your career as well? And we have these words: career, business, your entrepreneurial journey, which involves aspects that are not always creative, are more left brain oriented, more the masculine side of the creative process, I would say. Being around artists like yourself, I see something in common, which is a beautiful depth of feeling, a deep connection with feeling and with the feeling body of our being, the emotional body of our being. I think that comes with art. I don't know if you can actually tap into that creative flow juice without that, which comes, I'm sure, with challenges too. But how do you navigate all that openness that requires for you to even channel that, and navigating the day-to-day entrepreneurial journey?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's interesting for me because as much of an artist and creative that I am, I also actually really enjoy the more quote unquote masculine aspects of having a business. So it's never been hard for me to balance both. In fact, I've actually had to work harder to create space for art than I have for the other side of things. So for me, that looks like actually scheduling time for art and for like free flow art, which admittedly has been a challenge for me over the years. And I find myself, um, for me, I can most easily access that space when I'm with a client because for me, tattooing is really like the tattoo itself and the artwork is important, but it's like the last thing for me. It's more so about getting to be in that space of like of listening with another person and feeling another person. That's what I like, what gives me life with my work. So I feel like when I step into that space, I'm there fully and the information can flow very easily. And then when I'm not in that space, it's easy for me to focus on the work things I need to get done. And at the same time, I've had my periods of like, I can't respond to an email for a month or, so in those moments, I've learned to ask for help and have other people support me, whether it's like, doing my social media for me because I just can't be bothered or answering emails for me. So I think, you know, life is always changing and I'm always changing. And I allow myself to change and allow myself to uh, feel like, this month I can't do my emails. So I have this person that can do them for me. And now all of a sudden, I actually have space to do them. So I'm going to take it back. And I've done that over and over with lots of parts of my business. And I just think like there's no right way, and the rigidity of how the culture makes things seem like they need to be in order to run a business successful just doesn't work for me. So like many parts of what I do, I've just kind of rejected that and done my own thing. Um, yeah, I had one other thought, but it's gone, so we'll let it go. Maybe it will come back. Yeah.
I love that aspect of listening to what is present in the moment and allowing that to change, which is natural. It seems pretty natural, like nature.
Right.
Nature is always changing, seasons, cycles, right? Culture and our conditioning um, seems to present again a rigid ways of doing and ways that are supposed to work because maybe they have in the past, right? And listening to that is the wonderful for your own well-being, first of all, and then the well-being of everything else you do, because you are the the main aspect of what you create. Also, I love that the presence of your client creates an environment for your inspiration. And yeah, and I think enjoying those aspects of the business, like emails, social media things, reframing in a, oh, I actually enjoy this as well.
Yeah.
Right, I can enjoy it
Sometimes, yeah.
sometimes. I can enjoy
Well, they
it.
can also be really creative things too, like writing. Writing, I love writing newsletters and connecting with clients that way. And I love sometimes, creating a post to share my work and telling the story of this time with my client. Sometimes it feels more labor intensive than others, but there's a lot of creativity that can be infused in those, more businessy aspects of the business as well.
Yeah, true, true. It's only about listening to those moments that you need to stay away, right? You need to have a space for other things that might be coming up. I'm curious about this evolution as you started playing and listening to yourself and listening to guidance and navigating this new creative process and business, new way of doing business, inviting people into this ceremonial experience. What has been the evolutionary process? Like, what has changed? And is there anything you see changing as you go, or are you just listening and going with the flow?
Well, I'll answer on kind of two levels. Practically, my process has evolved a lot over time. I think it's kind of gone in a wave where, and I guess both levels kind of go hand in hand. So I'll talk practical and I'll also talk about how I've changed because that's really what has changed everything. As I think our businesses are really just a reflection of us in so many ways. So, in the beginning of tattooing in this way, I was seeking a lot, and I was always wanting to be somewhere that I wasn't, and there was a bit of spiritual seeking, and I was attracting a lot of clients that were also seeking something, and we got to go really deep together in those moments of, searching. But I left often feeling really drained and exhausted after a day of clients or a day of a client. I usually only do one person a day, but um, yeah, I was having this like experience where on one hand it was so profound and so emotional and so beautiful, but on the other hand I was really, really drained, and I could feel like something was off. And but I only was able to do what I had the capacity for and the awareness for at that time. And so over the course of the last 5 or 6 years, I have had to go through my own evolution of from going from wanting to be this certain person for other people and provide this certain experience for other people to like completely removing myself from the whole thing and basically learning to become just like a clear vessel. And that was a really hard and an uncomfortable process, to the point where I went like a year or so and almost didn't work at all because I really needed to pull back, because I recognized there was like a layer of inauthenticity to what I was doing, because I was trying to be something and trying to provide an experience. And, I'm pretty self aware. So I think the level to which this was happening was very, very subtle. But once I became aware of it, I couldn't look away. And yeah, it was hard to see, really hard to see. But I'm so glad that I did. And I've since been able to come into a place where I feel like I have nothing to prove, and I just get to be me, and there's no expectation or pressure on me or the client or the experience, and we're still having beautiful, profound moments together, and I feel great at the end of the day. So practically my session has evolved a lot, and like I said, there was a time where I really pulled myself out of it, and I stopped doing the whole like 4-hour ceremony, and I sent the artwork ahead of time, and I tried to like literally remove myself from it as much as possible, because I needed to do that. I needed to swing the pendulum all the way to the other end in order to get myself sorted. And now I'm kind of back to my original process, and at the same time, which this brings me back to a thought I had a minute ago when we were talking about business, you know, it's we're also learning as individuals to balance the feminine and masculine parts of ourselves and our business. And as much as it's beautiful to be so in the flow, we do need boundaries and we do need structure. And so now where I'm at with my business is like I get to be myself. I get to be in the creative flow, and I've learned how to have boundaries with my time, with my relationships with my clients. And so I don't feel drained at the end of the day and the week and the month. And yeah, it's becoming a lot more sustainable and a lot more authentic, which is, I think, the goal in life for me, is just to continually become more and more authentically myself. And as far as the future goes, I don't know. My family is expanding this year, and so that is going to change things. And I think tattooing will always be there, but things are shifting, and I don't really know what it's going to look like when I'm a mother, and I don't know. So I'm just kind of like in this open space, and we'll see.
Moving towards your authentic being. And what is that? What came is like when there is that self, that personality that in somewhere, in some way feels that again needs to perform, to give, to serve, to make this whole thing. And there's so much goes in there: perception of value, your self uh, perception, and so much goes into it when you're in this service experience, right? And of course there is that natural, almost childlike need. I want this person to leave this experience feeling really, good. And we have this like, thing we want to impress too, that natural thing. It's ego, but it's also our human experience, right? Since babies, we have that. Like I'm here to impress. But then, like when that takes away your energy, your authenticity, that feeling like, oh, it's more than I actually have, right? Finding that, and that subtle self-observation and self-awareness that it takes to notice those subtleties. Amazing. And then the transformation process of not becoming but being more who you already are without those layers, right? So what came is like it's a more like a process of letting go what is unnecessary, right? Or
Yeah,
excessive, and then finding that boundary and the simplicity
totally.
of what authenticity really is, which is again a child always comes to mind. Like it's
Yeah.
simple,
Yeah,
joyful.
exactly. I my motto for myself last year was simple, not special.
Mm,
Yeah. Yeah.
it feels like an exhale.
Yeah, totally. It's like such a relief. Yeah. I mean,
Hmm.
we all want to feel and be special, and I think that's like our little kids, wanting to feel special. But yeah, it's such a relief to just be like, "Oh, I just want to be simple."
Right, right. And I'm wondering here if that to get to that point, to circle, again, you say, oh, now I'm circling back, like that spiral, and you revisit uh, the same part of you from a different
Totally.
place.
Totally.
And but would you have come to that place without experimenting with giving your all, giving 4 hours and
Yeah.
all your soul to that experience? So
Yeah.
you feel drained, so you have that feedback. Oh,
Exactly. Yeah.
right.
Yeah. Yeah. It's necessary. Yeah. I think all
Mm,
of all of it is necessary and unavoidable.
mm,
We're gonna make the mistakes, if you want to call them that, or learn the lessons. We have to learn the lessons somehow, and it's usually never through ease. Very rarely through ease do we learn the tough lessons. Yeah, but they're necessary.
yeah. Mm. Yeah, simple, not special. What have you seen? What have you witnessed as a result of the ceremony of the poking tattooing? What have you seen as a result in some of your clients, or maybe some highlight experience that you could share?
Yeah. Oh,
Mm,
there's so much. I think for me, I get to see the vast colors of our world. Like every person has such a unique story, and yet we're all the same. We're all like wanting the same things, searching for the same things, have a lot of the same pains and struggles. And so, yeah, it's been such a beautiful journey for me to get to see and experience so many different types of people. Um, I've found that often the ceremony, people think that they're coming usually to like memorialize a time in their life, or put a stamp on the end of a chapter, or yeah. And what seems to be the theme is actually that it's like the seed for something new. So, we can do both, but it's really like the beginning of a new process, more so in what I've received as feedback from my clients and in my own experience of tattooing myself and receiving ceremonial tattoos from other artists. Um, it's like it's an initiation every time into something new, and uh, it's a way for us to take something immaterial, um, spirit, and bring it into matter. And so we can pull in whatever intention we can, and then by actually doing the tattoo, it's this beautiful process of activating your intention. So, we walk around all the time and have intentions for our life and our day and our relationships, and but we've kind of lost this art in our culture of finding ways to actually like activate those intentions into our life, bring the immaterial into the material form. And this is a really, really powerful way to do that. And then literally like you're marking your body forever with that intention. So yeah, I trying to think of like a specific story or example. Um, nothing specific is coming to me, but um, I think because one, I I try to kind of, like I said, be really present with my clients, and then like let it go afterwards, because it's a lot for me to be, every single poke I'm like imbuing not only their intention but my energy into their being. And so I do my best to kind of cut those cords after the time, and um, I'm not like swirling in everyone's experience afterwards. So yeah, there's nothing really clear that's coming to me. But I will say I had a client last week who, I think we've done 5 ceremonies over the course of like 3 or 4 years. And to just get to watch her grow and come more into herself over the years has been so beautiful. It's so pure. It's so, real. She's coming more into who she authentically is. And so, yeah.
Hmm. I love it. When you are present with what is present, it is really beautiful that it flows through you, and then you let that be that, and then you're clear. Right? I think it's beautiful. That's a sign that you're truly, truly present. And I think we covered a lot of beautiful insights and into your creative process, which is gorgeous. It just came to me something that um, I wonder, how much beauty, such as, wow, it's really unique what came through you, what came into form, what came into being by you going inside and inquiring and asking. So I wonder what would come, through human beings if everybody would go there and just allow something perhaps new. And because I've seen traditional poke tattoo used by New Zealand natives, right? Maoris. And in Southeast Asia. But the way you bring is very unique. It's very, very yours. I don't think there are many out there doing the way you do? Of course not. Are there? Do you know any?
In the grand scheme of things, no, there's not
Mm,
many, but there are certainly.
mm,
They're out there. Yeah, I wasn't aware of them until I was in this world, and now I am. Um, and when you're in something, it seems like it's bigger than it is. So, from my perspective, like, yeah, there's a lot, but there's not. There's really not. But at the same time, it's growing. It's growing, and which is amazing. And I actually released a course last year to teach people how to tattoo, and so I feel like this is coming back to the roots of everything is important for me. And this is one way to do that in a really practical sense where you can take art and make something and make a living for yourself. And so, yeah, I
yeah.
really wanted to be able to share that with other people.
Beautiful. Yeah, and what so much beauty comes not only to you, but to everybody you share, and now teaching others by having the courage to bring something new into form and finding your own way of doing it versus modeling something that already exists, which is nothing wrong with that, but um, then we'll take again that process of finding your own way
Right.
of doing things. So thank you
Thank
for
you. Yeah.
listening to your
Yeah.
guidance and allowing art to come in the most pure form possible.
Thank
Very
you.
beautiful. Thank you. Is there anything you'd like to share before we wrap up?
Hmm. Well, I mentioned my course. Yeah, I don't know. I think just words of encouragement to whoever's listening. If you have a, quiet whisper inside to do something, whatever it is, listen to it. Don't let those little whispers go to waste.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing. Thank you for your
Thank you.
presence.
Thank you for having me.